Dead by Daylight is one damn toxic place, but why exactly is that the case? Why is game after game just brewing with toxicity? And that's the answer we're looking for in today's video. Kings and queens, welcome back to the second channel. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day, and we're talking about and diving into the ideas of why DBD is so toxic. I recently seen a fantastic video by Spook and Jukes, which I highly recommend you guys take a look at, and in this he made some incredibly good points talking about why he feels Dead by Daylight is toxic. And I want to agree and add on to a lot of the points that he's created, and as someone that has played the game since pretty much literally the beginning of Dead by Daylight, I want to tell you guys what I've seen unfold in front of my very eyes and why I think the game is this toxic in this day and age. I want to start off by giving an important distinction between Dead by Daylight and other games. Let's take a game like Call of Duty. One of the points that Spook and Jukes made is that he's seen the toxicity in other games, and so have I. I've played Modern Warfare 3, I've played Black Ops 2, I have thousands of hours in these games. I religiously played these games growing up, and yes, it was the wild, wild west, and you were hurled by insults and whatever the case may be. But the distinction between that versus Dead by Daylight is that no matter what you were doing when you're playing multiplayer, you have the same options and the same perks, the same guns, the same ability to use something that the other side would have as well. So if you were to get upset, at least in the ways that I've seen it, you would be upset at a gun or a C4 being overpowered or a perk being overpowered, and you'd be angry at the person for using that specifically. And that happens in Dead by Daylight as well, but for Dead by Daylight being an asymmetrical game, there is a lack of empathy because people just don't often play the other side. Now, this is a broad generalization, and you guys can correct me in the comments, but from what I've seen, once you're situated in your main, and you still might play the other side, but once you predominantly play one side, you start to get a lack of empathy towards the other side, and you start to think that whatever the devs are doing specifically is only to aid the other side, and it's never looking at it as a source of balancing. And this is where the toxicity comes from as well, having that lack of empathy and not necessarily having the ability to put yourself in the other side's shoes. So for other games, as I mentioned, you can be upset at someone using a C4, but then you can run a C4 and you'll be like, okay, I can't beat him, so I'll join him until the devs decide to fix it. For Dead by Daylight, if you're not playing the other side, you're going to get upset at the other side no matter what. And this is where I think it all roots from. An old school DBD, OG DBD, survivors versus killers, the way the game was made, it was inherently going to become this toxic. And obviously the community has amplified this and social media has made this worse than it is, but that's what it was rooted in. That's the foundation of it. The us versus them mentality has been there since day one. And if you're playing on Survivor, if you're playing on Killer, that's the way you're always going to look at it. So it started off with survivors, maybe jumping into a game where a killer will tunnel them. They would face camp them. They would run incredibly strong perks. You would feel a typo and be like, killers suck. They're just gonna try to do this. And again, this is just their objective. This is what they're doing. And the same for the Survivor side. Don't get it twisted. I'm arguing for both sides here. Then you will go into a game. You're going to bring in a brand new part. You're going to bring in really good perks to help you in looping. Maybe you toss in a couple teabags and flashlight flicks in there just to assert your dominance and maybe even inflate your ego because it feels good to win, right? Then the killer's gonna be like, survivors are goddamn OP. I'm bringing Noed, I'm bringing a Mori, I'm bringing everything to basically make these survivors as miserable as possible because they don't care about me. Then that goes. Then the survivors feel that, and they try to one-up each other. And this keeps going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, to the point where if you start losing a game, you blame the other side, and maybe it could have even been your own fault for why you've done bad, but you just blame the other side at that point. And you can't necessarily see why this person played this certain way that they did. Now, at the end of the day, this is subjective, and again, this is a big generalization, but that's typically what I see happening with the Dead by Daylight community. And this has blown up even more with social media because folks tend to come together that agree on the same points, and what better way to bond than hating something, right? And that's what happens on Twitter. That's what happens on Reddit. That's what even happens on YouTube. Including myself, you've seen videos posted where you might play Survivor and do insanely good and you really BM the killer. Or you might play the killer side and say, I played against some toxic survivors and I beat them up, and you're really hyped and energetic to post this video. Then killers will be happy that, you know, you beat up some survivors, and survivors will be like, wow, killers are super oppressive. Like, this guy sucks. And that's what happens. You then get people on Twitter that, let's just say hypothetically, I were to play a game as Huntress and I ran Eerie Head with Amori. And then I can go on Twitter later of someone literally bashing me for playing the game that way, which is in the game and is a way to play. And then everybody in the comments would say, this guy sucks. This guy's no good. He's a washed up content creator. He's ugly. He needs a better hairline. That's just what happens. And people think it's fine because screw them. They're a killer. I don't care. I'm a survivor. Who cares about them? And the same with the other side. Killers would be like, screw them. They're survivors. I don't care about them. That's what essentially happens. And this gets more and more amplified within the community as it becomes normalized so quickly, especially to new players, because this is the standard. In most cases, one side or the other is going to try to win. They're going to try to do their job, right? Whether this is in a fun way, which again, fun is subjective. It could be sweating it out and just getting that dub, or maybe goofing around, whatever the case may be, having that other side feeling a type of way. And when you're coming in as a new player, you basically inherit all of this toxicity and you're like, okay, I get what's going on. You either stick with it or you just don't play DBD anymore. And that's the way that I personally see how toxicity is in Dead by Daylight. And it has grown and grown and grown, where everyone is trying to one-up each other on both sides, so much so now that it stems into personal attacks. It goes to people bashing each other's content, people bashing each other on the way they look, people going out of their way to harass somebody, whether it's on Discord, joining their Discord to mess with everybody, maybe going out their way on consoles to send a message, maybe it's to say crazy things that will essentially get you banned because they want to show that hatred towards the other side. It's very rare that you see like survivors essentially going against other survivors. It does happen, but it's more rare when compared to a survivor going against a killer. And same on the other side. It's very rare that you would see a killer main saying, hey man, listen, you just kind of play bad this game. It's not the survivor's fault at all. And that's what it boils down to. That's why we see this. And it's a content that does well. So YouTubers, including myself, they make content like that because that's just what DBD has grown into. So whether you see the video going against toxic survivors or going against a toxic killer and beating them, people enjoy it. People like to see that, especially if it's high level gameplay as well. At the end of the day, the way I truly feel about this is that it's fine to play the game and try to one-up each other. It's fine to play hard. It's fine to play sweaty. These are mechanics in the game for a reason. If you want to tunnel, if you want to camp, if you want to run the strongest add-ons, the strongest perks, whatever the case may be, if you want to roll with your Swift and BM the killer, sure. Once it's in regards of the game and it doesn't break the rules, to me, that's fine. Do what you want. I'm not gonna get mad if someone teabags me at an exit gate. You know, it's who cares? You know, I'm not gonna be that guy. I don't personally care. Some people do, which is fine. You're entitled to your own views and your own opinions, but for me, it doesn't matter. The distinction is that when you go out of your way to ensure that this person is getting hate, whether that's messaging them or even post-game chat saying awful things, talking about them on Twitter, looking at their Steam profiles, insulting them, or projecting hatred onto them with your own community. That's where the line needs to be drawn, and that's where people think it's so normalized to do that they just do it, and everybody pretty much looks the other way because it's so normalized in the community. And that's a big distinction from DBD and other games. It's us versus them, and it always has been, and it potentially always will be, because that's essentially the asymmetrical nature. And it boils down to, it's never my fault, it's the other side's fault, and then everybody agrees with that. They try to one-up each other, and it gets more and more toxic. But that is why I think Dead by Daylight is so toxic. It's just built in its foundation, and throughout all of the years, it has just built upon layers and layers and layers of hate that is amplified with social media, and people get really happy when they see other people agreeing with them, and you get into this mentality that it's always the other side's fault. And that just brews toxicity over and over and over, and it becomes so normalized that even the new players repeat the cycle, and this is what essentially keeps happening. That's why I think Dead by Daylight is so toxic. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you disagree with me, whatever the case may be. That's how I feel. Sorry if it was a little bit ranty and all over the place. That's how the second channel videos go. That's how everything goes down on the second channel. It's just nice little rants that we do, and it's a lot of good fun. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think Dead by Daylight's toxic? If so, why? And do you agree or disagree with me? I would love to know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Almost forgot, the winner for the DLC giveaway is right down there. Make sure you guys are contacting us in order to win. You have about 24 hours to do so. If not, we'll pick another winner. And don't forget, if you want to get an opportunity to win on this week's DLC, so next Friday, we'll pick the winner, or the next couple uploads, all you need to do is comment down below. It can be in relation to the video, or it can just be anything in general. And as much as I appreciate all the nice comments, and maybe some of them are not as genuine as the others, it is just a random generator that picks the winner. So you can leave the nicest comment about me, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna win. But I appreciate it though. I appreciate it. That's gonna do it for me though. I hope you guys did enjoy. Big thank you for all the support on the second channel. It's actually kind of crazy how much support and love you guys have been giving me. But that's pretty much going to do it for me. As always, I'm the king. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.